People me ṣiṣẹ́ látara náà jẹ́ ní much of. Mo lè má lọ presentation ìjà yìí mọ̀ tún máa present nǹkan fẹ́ lọ just to support them. You slide there, I think I have the slide, but yeah, slide them on what I'm doing. Hold on.
That one comes back. Yes, sir.
Then because what is possible now, don't you say? Hey, because what you might possible for okay, I'm out of It's about you said you cannot share the not I never knew. Just when I can get client, let's just like set up all the links and let's know this is working. The equally include the say yes, absolutely. Thank you. I see my phone behind, right? You want to let's do one.
And B307 time
So
5
che
days.
tu mi abbi, che se poi noi su cui
All right, so find out and then let's see. Now the thing is,
so che sei di fare
And Yoruba Prince culture.
more like me, but
Race on Prince culture, language, tradition, aesthetics. You want to
so if you find out what the last minute is, trying to see, and then to just say, trying to down another page.
That's
So this panel is literature representation. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you. Mrs. Elmo Agbo, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining for this session. This session is titled Literature and Representation, Writers and the Academic Interpreters. So we have three panelists. We have Mr. Tosin Adeshok. Okay, from Buffalo Law Investment. I think that's what it. No. Okay, so we are waiting for Mr. Tosin. I will Mr. Tosin Adeshok. And also we have Mr. Olawale from Google, right? So it's very impressive. And the third panelist we have Mrs. Aliman Ahmad Ibrahim. So this is 5:34, which is 4 minutes past. So we're going to start right by this. If the chairman, Mr. Olawale from not join us, we'll continue from this. Is that okay? Okay, so over to you, ma'am. From there, let's start.
sorry. Olawale, come on.
Yes. Okay, so you're the key. All right. So chair is there. That was actually what I was asking.
Oh, yes. I wanted to set the
Recent.
attachment. I was not good at
So we have the phone.
I can see Eno Afo online. Do we have Hussein Adishok on here? Okay. What about
Alima Ahmad Ibrahim. So we have only two doctors. So we have long time because of people. Okay, so let's have Eno Agbo. Are you ready for us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
You have
All
20
right.
minutes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. David. Good evening, everyone, or should I say bonsoir? Okay, my name is Agbo Enu, and I am a lecturer and doctorate student in the Department of French, Federal University of Lafayette, in the Faculty of Arts here in Nasarawa State. Okay, so today my paper is titled Mythism, Otherness, and the Boy Child in Innocent Ezia and Alphonse Pourquoi la guerre, la vie d'un réfugié. Actually, the book is written in French, but it is literally titled, translated, Why War? The Life of a Refugee. So in this work, I will be examining the concepts of mythism and ordering of the boy child within the framework of socio-psychoanalytic and masculinist theories. You know, just like we have feminism, we also have masculinism. Yeah, so we'll be looking at the work, the book, analyzing the book with a masculinistic viewpoint and also a socio-psychoanalytic viewpoint. So it is more of an eclectic study. Okay, so now this book, Pourquoi la guerre, la vie d'un réfugié, which we said means why war, the life of a refugee, is actually about boy children stigmatized for the most absurd reasons. Okay, and so now one of the reasons why these boy children are stigmatized is because of the day in which they were born. Like the protagonist, for example, he was a prince, but he was born on a Friday, a day symbolic to bad luck. You know, boy children born on the said day in that community were believed to be cursed, and thus they were excluded, discriminated against for being different, quote and unquote, as compared to normal people, that is, those born on other days of the week. So it is not in the least surprising that this concept is not quite a popular area of interest in many academic fields, including literary studies. Okay, so now the mythologized manifestation of ordering in the novel can be presented in the forms of indoctrination and objectification. Even if the phenomenon of ordering is found in reality, it also appears in literary texts. So this study aims to analyze how the process of mythism and ordering affects the treatment of boy children, which in turn bleeds into the society in many different forms and vices, such as gender stereotyping, violence and crime, male prostitution, misogyny, and other dangerous vices. So this work examines how this can be curbed and the effects salvaged. Now, let's look at the facets of modern concept of mythism. But before then, okay, now let's look at the facet. First, let's look at the facets of modern concept of mythism. Paradoxically, one of the important facets of modern concept of mythism is precisely the impression that it is something that exists elsewhere else. But we are not even aware that this exists within us, even between us. It's happening very close to you. You are not even aware. Everywhere there are important stories that set up characters and events that we will call miraculous and impossible. These things happen there. Hello?
Yes, go
Okay.
ahead. Can hear you.
All right. So now let's look at an overview of our two theories, which is socio-psychoanalysis analysis and masculinism. So socio-psychoanalysis is an approach used to analyze and intervene in human and social sciences. This draws on both psychology and sociology. It is a part of the psychosociological adventure by Ober and Goljac and Navridi in 1997. It was founded by Gérard Mendel, a sociologist and psychiatrist, based on his personal, biographical, and professional, and even collective experience operating within institutions in the sense of business, association, schooling, and all that. While masculinism, according to Le Grand Larousse illustré, Dictionnaire de français 2022, is a movement which designates a set of ideas geared towards promoting the rights of men, but in this context, the rights of the boy child and their interest in civil society, by asserting in particular that they are victims of the excesses of feminism. Apart from the fact that it defends the primacy of the father over the mother and of men over women, masculinism absolutely is not a matter of supporting men. It negates domestic violence. It doesn't body shame the victim nor blame the victims. It is against violence, whether it is man against man, man against woman, woman against man, or woman against woman. Masculinism is against all of that. And although we have different types of masculinism, we are actually looking at masculinism African contemporary, that is African contemporary masculinism. So what are the questions of this research? The questions of this research deals with, it goes, what are the physical traumas of otherness on the victims, who in this case are boy children? What are the psychological impacts and effects of otherness and mythism on the social life of the boy child? How does this trauma reveal itself in the society at large today? Are there solutions to these problems of the victims of this phenomenon? Okay, so now, what is a myth actually? In as much as we know that myths and othering are not really very wonderful and they are not so popular in literature, especially when the boy child is concerned. What is this myth actually and what is othering? A myth is a narrative of imaginary facts not recorded by history, but it is transmitted by tradition and featuring beings symbolically representing physical forces, spiritual forces, philosophical forces, metaphysical, and even social natures. This is according to Alain Bozard. For Martin in 1955, it is an allegorical expression of an abstract idea, an exposition of a doctrine in an imaginary form. According to Drouin, a myth is a traditional, idealized, and sometimes false representation of an idea to which isolated individuals or groups conform their way of thinking and their behaviors, like the protagonist of our text. It is a construction of the mind, according to Ambriel, a fruit of imagination, having no connection with reality, but which gives confidence and incites actions. Now, this action is what we call othering. Yes, the manifestation of this abstract idea, this mindset, is what is called othering. When people think that a particular section of people are treated the way they're supposed to be treated because of who they are, or because of their gender, or because of the day they were born, that itself is called othering. So now, let's look at the summary of the novel that we are studying. Pourquoi la guerre, la vie d'un réfugié. The novel, literally translated Why War, a Refugee's Life, begins in the village of Chogodo, which the author describes as a peaceful and tranquil village, until the news of a birth emerged, and it was the birth of a prince. And his birth was said to be evil because his birth took place on a Friday, a day considered a bad day by the Chogodo people. The child, despite his status in the society, he was conditioned, or he was ordered to be expelled by no one else but the child's own father, the king of Chogodo. Then on, the child was verbally abused. He was called all manner of names. Just for the only fault was that, which was no fault of his, was that he was born on a Friday. He was called demon child. He was called Abikun. He was called, in French, say bébé démon, bébé sorcière, witch, all manner of names. And then he was now neglected, stereotyped, alienated, rejected, and abandoned in the evil forest. And then when he refused to die, they now started looking for another means to kill him. And his mother had to go and hide him in the bush with an old man. After many years, the king became ill, and they had to consult the gods, quote and unquote. And one of the decisions that was taken was that the boy was still alive, and they had to find him to be killed at all costs. That was when the family, or his mother, now decided to send him away to Togo, to her brother. And right there at Togo, which was the second part of the novel, the boy grows up, he becomes another person, bears another name, changes his identity. But when his father finally died, the village elders came to look for him to become the next king, because he was the only son. And he now had to go back to consult those same gods that rejected him. That was how he repeated the cycle of mythism and stigmatization all over again. So now let's look at mythism and the boy child in this novel. Contemporary author Innocent Ezeanolu. novel introduces us to the concept of ordering, through its protagonist, Chowofa, who is superstitiously quarantined from the day of his birth. Thus, he was viewed as distinct, different from the rest of society. This novel reflects the unfavorable relations between the two groups. The first, which is the villagers, those that are born normal, which are known as the dominants, the exploiters, also known as the norm, the good people. And then we have the second group, which are the damned, the others, also known as the outsiders. Those are the people that are neglected, left, marginalized, demonized because of their, and in the end, indoctrinated with social myths and prejudice to continue to perpetuate the vicious cycle. Okay, so Tyson's categorization of individuals into two groups practically affirms the problematic nature of ordering, one that embodies empathy for one side and perceived degree of otherness on the other side to the extent that they deviate from the norm. Okay, so now the impact of this father absence on child's growth and development through this novel. Now, as a symbolic figure, the child needs to bond with a parental figure, whether biological or substitute, towards whom they can confidently and freely reach out. The gradual establishment of this process is fundamental to their psychological and relational survival, the boy child not excluded. This parental image constitutes the first imprints of their existence. And so when it is lacking by default, the child develops from a deficient figure with all the consequences that this entails. This loss of image shatters all reference points, both sexual, both psychological identity. He develops identity crisis because his identity falters. And then there are this effect, this leads to psychological wounds, which are sometimes irreversible and weakens the subject and influence their relationship with the world. Physical or even psychologically, the absence of the father has effect, even harm, on the child's development, especially the boy child. It is impossible to isolate the damage caused by the absence of the father, the status and the role of the mother, and family history. These are transgenerational. This thing has transgenerational effect and sometimes complex and chaotic underlying this absence. Now let's look at the textual analysis of the novel. Alofon argues that beyond the violent masculinities that characterize much of the African social order, there are several alternative currents that deserve study as they demonstrate the breadth of the debate over manhood and the shifting centers of gender equity. The role of war and the family in the expression and debates over different types of masculinity is crucial. This work explores Alofon's book as a site of protective masculinity and situates gender in both its traditional and contemporary context. Alofon argues that beyond the violent masculinities that mark much of the African social order, there are several alternative currents that deserve this study, as I've rightly said. As I've rightly said, this work actually looks at both the traditional and contemporary context. Now, in conclusion, the world is rapidly changing. It is no longer business as usual. If the sensitization, conscientization, training, attention, advocacy, and opportunities that are opening up for the girl child are not extended to the boy child as revealed in our text of study, patterns of abuse are bound to recycle themselves in the foreseeable future. As in a bid to promote balanced society, we might end up reproducing a confused generation born of strong women and weak men due to the neglect and sidelining of the boy child. Now, this is my recommendation. In my recommendation, we advocate for therapy for abused boy children, active participation of father figures in the raising of the boy child, and ample attention and protection of not only the girl child, but also the boy child, both in the home front and also in the society at large. Because an abuser could possibly have been an abused boy child. I close with this quotation from René Girard. And he said, you can raise the girl child all you want to any level in the society. But if the boy child is not raised with the same conscience and attention to detail, nothing changes. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for your attention.
Wow, it sounds fun. Quite impressive. Thank you so much for that. So let's have the second speaker, then we will have the yes.
I'm French.
No, we are only two.
Okay, you got second speaker. So I can.
So that we can.
Please, it's right.
Yes, yes.
In minutes.
Yes, one was. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for that presentation. I
Thank you.
let me speak up quite about a few things. Trying to would have discussed this better after my presentation so that we get all this back at once. So you get
Yes.
okay. It's quite funny or surprising that we are the only representational scholar around for today. These other two scholars are not around.
Wow.
So I present you. Yes, I am. Okay. Do you want to?
No, I'm wondering, I thought you were presiding.
It's presiding at that.
Oh, that was why I needed.
Yes, we're just trying to wait for our slide to come up.
Person presenting?
Yes, I've sent the slide to.
Okay, so which
That's global capitalism and currency security. Yes,
Yes, you already found it. Okay, because of you.
oh, nice. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Right. That's saved by
No.
my phones and everything.
No, like just.
It doesn't matter. Let's just no problem. Please go. All right. Good. Good evening once again. My name is Lali Mahmoud from Lagos State University. I'm a doctoral researcher at the University of Ibadan. So my topic is global capitalism and environmental degradation, ignorance and misuse switch to equality. Yeah, you see that we are just trying to do a representational analysis. So next slide. All right, so we see that since oil was discovered in Niger Delta 1956, that region has been subjected to systemic exploitation, social, political marginalization, and all sorts of environmental degradation. And these have been primarily driven by the transnational oil companies and all their operations, right? Can see this in Mangwa Otunde 2024. And we see that this exploitation is now grouped under the problems of modernization and global development. And this has led to widespread ecological devastation and impoverishment of host communities. So, previous studies have examined social, political, and environmental degradation in the Niger Delta before now. Well, it's been observed that fewer works has focused squarely on the dialectical between the global capitalism and ecological consciousness that obtained in Niger Delta. So the study is now to investigate these issues using sweet crude policy by Amishi. So just to give you a background of the novel, it talks about a Bruce Telma, the protagonist, just lost his job, and the temporary job he can get to make ends meet cannot even afford to pay the bill. And it was at that point that he was approached by a British man, Steve. So Steve approached him, and he now gave briefs and offer that it's like one in the lifetime deal that that Bruce should help become the middleman, discussing with local militants and the British national as to how to steal oil, right? So let's go to, okay, just to define the two terms I am working with so that we'll all be on the same page. The first term there is global capitalism. Global capitalism is an economic system where businesses and markets operate across countries to make profit, and these are often controlled by large companies and definitely influenced by powerful nations. The second key term there is environmental degradation. This is damage or destruction of the natural environment, such as land, air, water, and these are usually caused by human activities like pollution, deforestation, and oil spills. And all these issues, all these environmental issues, we can find them characterized in Niger Delta. So what am I investigating in simple terms? I want to see how sweet crude odyssey, this novel, portrays the underexplored intersection of global capitalism, how powerful nations control the system of business. So I want to investigate that in relation to the environmental consciousness in Niger Delta. So the scope of studies, Swiss Re, Odyssey, of course, the significance is to advance literary and environmental scholarship, and also to show how fiction, African literature, or Niger Delta literatures specifically critique global capitalism. So, aim and objective. The aim is to examine how Sweet Crude Odyssey portrays the impact of global capitalism and oil exploitation on people and the physical environment of the Niger Delta. So we have quite a number of literature reviews there. We've had quite a number of works written earlier. But Ken Saru, who was an activist, but now he's now, since he was recently given a national pardon. So we see how since that 1965 that oil was discovered, even up to now, we still see that the trend of the how the environment has been so destroyed. And we see that this is not only an internal issue, but also it has been aided by some external forces. So I now move on to the research methodology. Is using a qualitative research methodology that is grounded in the post-colonial ecosystem. You know how just like this is the blend of post-colonialism and eco-criticism. As you can see that post-colonial eco-criticism allows for the exploration of the intersection between environmental degradation and the enduring legacies of colonial and neo-colonial exploitations, the remains of colonialism in our present reality. So now, the analysis is now structured around four major thematic concerns. I really hope I'll have time to explain this four, but as soon as my 20 minutes start. All right, so the first one is to see how the descent into criminal capitalism driven by deprivation and division, how these are represented, how they are represented in the novel. Another thing there is to see how the two-tier informal oil economy, which mirrors global capitalist structure, can be identified in that novel, and this is what we see play out in our current reality. Now, the fourth one is the neo-colonial logic underpinning ecological destruction. And the last thing is the cultural and psychological impact of oil dependency in a post-colonial state. So let me take the first one, which is the deprivation, division, and the path to criminal capitalism. In the novel, we see that the protagonist, Bruce, the descent into oil-related crime, it illustrates how the systemic deprivation and lack of opportunities in the Niger Delta can push the educated youth into moral and compromising decisions. You see that in earlier works, in earlier Niger Delta work, we see that most times the youth that we see in the militants, like those who are restless, we discover that they are not the educated ones. But how come that even the educated ones now are now being caught in that web? So it shows that there is this systemic and endemic deprivation and lack of opportunities. Now to the second one. Okay. Let me talk on the first one, which is the deprivation, division, and the path to criminal capitalism. To reference Ross, one of the major proponents of his name is Bob Nixon. In 2011, he wrote on the concept of slow violence, and it is a form of harm that is gradual, invisible, and dispersed. So, taken from his position, it shows that the path into this criminal capitalism is a slow violence by education. It's not something that it is part of changing in the speed of light. It is just as the word, just as the term being used, slow violence, meaning that it is gradual, it is invisible. So let me pick another point on that deprivation. We see that the author Lauren Amishi, he critiques global capitalism by showing how the structure does not only exploit natural resources, but also erode the personal agency and normalize criminality as a survival strategy for the economically disenfranchised. Yes, so it's not only to exploit the natural resources that we have in the Niger Delta, but to also diminish or erode that personal agency, that the morality. So now putting forward how we can normalize criminality just as an escape. So that's another point. So moving to the second point, which is the two-tier informal oil economy, which mirrors global capitalist structure. You see that the two-tier, in the novel, it is discovered that there are two tiers of the oil theft network. You see, on one hand, you see the oil pumping gas, the locals. And on another side, we see the British national on the other side. So this exposed an informal yet highly organized capitalist system. Then still under the two-tier informal oil economy, you see that Bruce, who is the protagonist and the link man between these two set of people, it illustrates how it became complicit intermediaries in a neo-colonial petrol economy, where economic and moral exploitation intersect. This is another two-tier now. Then the novel critiques how global capital infiltrates local context through illicit networks, and this highlights the normalization of crime as business and the erosion of ethical boundaries in a society that is shaped by survival, that is shaped by inequality. Now, to talk on the next one, the neo-colonial logic underpinning ecological destruction. We see that the novelist Amishi, it presents the environmental destruction of the Niger Delta not as accidental, but as a calculated outcome of new colonial structures. So it's with that the global and local elites, they extract wealth, leaving ecological ruin behind. So this is not something accidental, but because they want to feed on that their capitalist egg. So that is one of the colonial logic underpinning the ecological destruction. We also see that through Bruce's experience, Bruce is the protagonist. We see that the novel illustrates how oil capitalism will reduce a once thriving community to a place of desolation. It now forces people into other survival-based community, like a place that is flourishing, that is thriving, is now they will be displaced, and those people they symbolize resource cost. I am using that quotation from a scholar too. Resource cost. Okay, I think it's like Imre statesman. Resource cost, like cost, meaning that this should be something that should benefit the society. It now becomes a cost. So talking on the last part, which is the cultural and psychological impact of oil dependency in the states. We see that the author uses Bruce, the transformation of the protagonist, to show how oil dependency distorts identity. If we depend on oil, it will distort our values, our aspirations. It's now turned survival into complicity and wealth into a matter of moral collapse. In the novel, we also see that The author critiques the petrocultural imagination that glamorizes affluence and performance over ethics. So we see that this now exposes how oil wealth erode trust, it causes issues, it disperses and dislocates communal ties, and it's now disorganized and threatening the national unity. So to conclude, last bit, we see that the study examined Lawrence Amish's Swift Odyssey as a powerful critique of global capitalism and environmental degradation in the Niger Delta part of Nigeria, showing how the novel reflects the human, cultural, and ecological cost of oil dependence. We see that through the story of Bruce, the author exposes the illusion of wealth in a system driven by structural poverty, moral compromise, and neo-colonial exploitation. Now, we now see that the novel now shifts focus from the corporate oil giants to the informal transnational network, highlighting how both contribute to the region's decline. So even if it is the shell which is organized in their boardroom and those informal systems, both are still trying to maximize their profits. So we see that even in the corporate oil world and the informal world, we see that they both contribute to the environmental degradation in Niger Delta. So the research affirms that the role of literature is also to give voice to the marginalized community and challenge the systems that value profits over people and the planet. Thank you for your attention. All right, thank you so much for that. This right now we welcome feedback questions from please engage us so that we can become better.
Okay, thank you to the two presenters. I want to start with Enuago. Thank you for your presentation. Even though I've not read the text before, but I see you say you used psychoanalysis and masculinity in the construction of the texts that you used. Yes, when you were rounding up your discussion, yes, you began to apply masculinity. Even though we don't have the paper, but in your other presentations, aside from your conclusion, I was going to ask that you have not actually done a masculinity study of the texts. What I see you doing more was to talk about absentee fatherhood, talk about trauma, as against doing a masculinity study of the work in itself. I don't have the paper, but from the discussion that we had you present to us, I didn't see much of the application of the masculinity theory to your paper. So that's that for Argo. For Olawale, thank you for that also beautiful presentation. I also will need to go and look for this text, but actually I'm not able to marry actuality and the texts. I was not able to marry the two together. Yes, there's a lot of happenings in the Niger Delta. There's a lot of exploitation, but it is not all. Yes, everybody who goes into business is going into business for profit. So all the oil companies that are here because of profit. Okay, so it is the inability of our government to now put structures in place to check the activities of this government that is causing our problem today. There's a way we can actually monitor what they're doing. So what the Niger data people have also decided to do is to say, okay, if the government is making all the money and we are not getting anything, which also is not true, then we devise means of now, getting our own from the economy. And that's why you have all this oil bunkering, that they will go and blow the pipelines. They will also siphon petrol and all of that. About 2 or 3 years ago, Tony Elumelu bought an oil rig and discovered that what he thought he was going to be making, he is not able to make it because the people have devised means of as they are doing the excavation, the guys already have outlets to which the crude is going.
Sahara energy guy.
Exactly. So what eventually gets to them is not comparable to what they thought that they invested into, and they have to shout and scream and say, no, there's so much going on because our government have not done their bit. Now, the surprising one, I like the ending of the war, where you now began to talk about, let's even leave the major oil players and look at the other ones who are also now beginning to siphon. The sad part, I've been to the Niger Delta. I was in Bonny 2 years ago, and you see a huge gap between Bonny Island and the community. And I was asking questions, why is the gap so huge? And somebody told me, so guess what? These guys don't want to do anything. So I'm even surprised they have created a character who is learned and who is unable to even get employment because it's rare. There's a quota that goes to the community for employment into any of those companies. Guess what they do?
Yes.
I get the quota. I don't have any degree. I don't have anything. I sell it.
Yes.
The guy who had certificate. And I said, okay, you guys, you bear my name because they will give it to the name. They will not give it to anybody outside of that client. So you will bear my name. You will earn the money. As you earn it, you are giving me 70%.
Yes.
So I'm surprised that's why I need to read the text. I'm surprised the character is learned and is unable to get a job. That they now have to come to him to say, okay, come and be middleman. It's because they see that, yes, he's learned. He will be able to, manage his people better. And that's probably why they have engaged him in that action. The theory you have applied is very apt. I liked it. The post-colonial theory, it is very apt. The only concern I have is I'm not able to marry the text and the actuality. Aside that, I think you did wonderfully well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Should I attend to, or should we take everything all together?
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's better.
Sorry, I have an observation. So the analysis, you have like 4 tiers, and I think that is a lot. I think just one, for example, the 2-tier part, if you drill deep into that, you have more than 20 pages. You will have too many things to explore because the minute you start explaining corruption in quotes from 2 sides, what are we talking about? The book is full now.
It's limited to the text. It depends on what data is able to gather from that text. If it doesn't have so much discussions about the 2-tier, it becomes a challenge.
Right.
Okay.
Because
The explanation of that 2-tier
before
was
perspective that I am bringing forth is quite large.
Okay.
And again, if I'm to investigate deeper,
Yes.
I would have quite
Get more. So you can focus on one. So you actually have 4 papers in one.
the psychological effects
Yes.
of that paper. Then that resource course,
just
please, I think you should.
It is a fact on that.
We have to read it up, and it is beautiful. I think you should focus on that resource course and link it to the 2-tier thing.
Yes.
Then another paper again, take another aspect of that analysis and finish it. You have 4 papers from that.
True.
From that text.
Once you're able to get data from your text, I think you can break them into different papers.
thank you so much.
Yeah, well done. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. I want to speak to Enwagbo. I hope I pronounced that properly. Agbo.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you for your wonderful presentation. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Now, one aspect of your reparty that really struck me is when you mentioned absence of the father. Yeah, I think one person has already spoken on that. Absence of the father. I'm happy that this is coming from a woman, from a lady, okay? And you are actually saying from the perspective of the men. It shows that you are aware that men are also suffering, not just about the girl child, but boy child too. Also pass through, some challenges. I like that supporting us. Thank you very much. But what I want you to clarify is this. When I saw your title, and I saw myth. That myth captured my attention. Okay, so you've not really dwelled on myth. I don't know. Your analysis has not been able to give us definitions of myth, how myth is relevant to your analysis. How can we connect the knowledge of myth with absence of father? How does myth correspond with the idea of masculinity you talked about? So please, I want you to do that linking so that we can have new knowledge about it. Okay. So the second speaker, I regard him as an orator because the way he was speaking, in fact, it was on point. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. One thing I noticed and I enjoyed about your analysis is your skill of coinage. It's like you've coined some words that are really wonderful. I could pick petroculture. I don't know if that's correct.
Petroculture.
Yeah, petroculture. I mean, that's wonderful. That's linguistic aesthetics. I appreciate that. Okay, but I noticed inconsistency somewhere. We were talking about criminal capitalism. Later, you spoke about global capitalism. Uh, those two terms, I got confused at some points. Are you talking about criminal capitalism or global capitalism? I shouldn't place that in one particular context. So you could help us do justice to that in terms of consistency. Also, um, regarding the oil, let me say oil violence. Okay, let me grow that phrase, oil violence. You did a whole lot of work, and I really appreciate your expertise. But then there are some areas that would want your essay to capture. Yeah, if this is going to be published, I would appreciate it if you could. It's just a suggestion if you could capture this area. We've been talking about oil violence, oil theft, oil insecurity. There is the thematic concern of militancy. I really want you to address that area of militancy. I want you to explain to the readers how they intersect. I mean, how this oil violence, oil insecurity has led to, formation of militancy. And if you observe this militant groups, most of them are boys. Young boys who don't see any fortune in education. If at all they have the motivation to go to school, no funding, nothing. So they resolve to being recruited as local militants. So you could help us shed more light on that aspect. And also you could also inculcate into your analysis the idea of traumatic effects of that oil violence, how it has led to trauma, how you mentioned host communities. I think those are the victims, the ideal victims. How the oil theft, oil violence has been able to traumatize them. And also I think your presentation is investigative. Yeah, it's investigative. I noticed that your tone is investigative, and if you are doing your investigations, you could also uh talk about. Please give what's it called? Give reference to your claims. You said in 1956, oil discovery, or you were discovered in digital, said by who. So you could give scholarly backup to your claim, so that it won't be like you're giving us narrative, you're actually giving us analysis that have facts. So you could give us scholarly citations and like that. Also, that title of the text, Sweet Crude Odyssey, that title is wonderful. Sweet Crude Odyssey. Odyssey suggests classical symbolism, Odyssey, yeah, classical symbolism. You could dwell more on the title, the relevance of the title, how Odyssey, how classical symbolism could relate to contemporary development. You could just do some touches on that. And finally, your theoretical framework, you mentioned post-colonial I don't know how would you merge? I know that post-colonialism is a theory on its own, and criticism is a theory on its own. And I remember that ESULE has been able to work on post-colonial criticism, but I've not been able to agree with that development. Maybe it's an ongoing resolution, I don't know. But are you sure you can really combine two heavy theories together and give us one discourse? If it's possible, to what extent is it? Thank you.
Let's leave them to this. Let's answer for them.
So, Apple, do you want to react to some of the questions and comments?
Okay. I want to thank you, first, Dr. David Olusanjo, first for your comments about applying the masculinist theory in the paper, and where you said the masculinist theory and my ending, where I talked about absentee father affecting the development of the boy child, the growth and development of the boy child. Now, there's a part of masculinism which is SOS Papa. Yes, it is founded in France, that fights for the custody of children. In divorce cases, most times the woman takes custody of the children. That's where SOS Papa comes in. It's a type of masculinism where they fight. Fathers also have rights and for custody of the child, for child custody. Yes, SOS Papa, like SOS, what we call capital S, zero S, SOS. Yes. Okay, so that's a type of masculinism. We even have extreme masculinism, people that want nothing to do with women. Yes. And we really don't know why it is that way. So there are many types. We have contemporary masculinism, which believes that the roles. Yes, they want nothing to do with women. Women, they see women as evil. It's what we ignore in our society as misogyny. Then they see it like they don't want anything to do with women. They could just adopt children and live their lives. They want nothing to do with women. They also believe in masculine virginity. A man has rights to his virginity too. Okay, so now let's I thank my other comrade for his wonderful sorry. Yes, I thank my other comrade, even if I'm yet to know your name, but I'm really impressed by your contribution. Thank you so much.
You?
Yes.
Me?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So
for your what you
Sunday Akinboye.
Sunday Akinboye.
My name is Sunday Akinboye.
Comrade Sunday.
Sunday, yes.
Okay, thank you. Comrade Sunday, I'm really grateful for your contribution. And you talked about myth, if I got you clearly, that I did not really dwell on the myth and how it relates with absentee or masculinism. Did I get your question correctly?
Yes. The linking, exactly.
Okay, now when we talk of a myth, we mean ideas, preconceived ideas that are passed down from generation to generation, that have no basis with reality, but yet they are so concrete in the minds of a particular set of people. like we found in our text. In our text of Stop Pourquoi la guerre, la vie d'un réfugié. It's a French text, but it was translated to English. Yes. So now in this particular text, the only crime this guy committed was that he was born on a Friday. How is that a crime? He was born on a Friday, which is no fault of his. But because it is perceived that Friday is a day synonymous to bad luck, that was how he was categorized. Categorization of human beings is what is called ordering. Ordering is when you put people in a class, just conclude on them. You separate them from the society just because they are different. It doesn't only happen in feminism. Like people stereotype women because they are women. Men are also stereotyped because they are men. But in this case, which our advocacy is that it's for the boy child. It is a myth that the boy child, if we check in the entire work, we find out that there are some myths like it is forbidden for a boy child to cry. Our question is, if it is forbidden for the boy child to cry, why did his creator put tears in his eyes? Was it for cooking soup? Okay, so but in the entire text, you find out that the guy was not, no, he was not, if he gets injured, he was a man, he's supposed to man up. When he became by the time he was being smuggled into Togo to escape from being killed as a witch for being born on Friday, his mother sent him to Togo. In the course of being in school, a girl beat him up, but he was not supposed to beat the girl up because he was a man and he was bloody all over, but he was not supposed to raise his hand because he was a man. So as a man, or as a man child, he's supposed to be abused. Is that what we are saying? So if we check, masculinism is every part of the text. Masculinism, especially contemporary masculinism, negates violence, whether it is violence, whether it is man against man, or man against woman, or woman against man, or man against man, or woman against woman. Any violence against genders, just for the sake of the gender, is negated by masculinism and contemporary, which is called contemporary masculinism. So myth here is when an idea is perceived by a community just for the purpose of categorizing people. That is a myth. It's not based on a fact. That is not a fact. It's a myth that gives birth to prejudice. I don't know if I actually handled what's your question, sir. Comrade Sunday.
Sorry, I have a follow-up question. When you, from your explanation, you mean archetypes? Are you referring to archetypes? When you say myth,
actually, no.
But you kept saying stereotyping, the preconceived notion.
Yes, it's really
like an archetypal thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, you have a strong point there.
Because that makes sense. I was misled though. I thought you were going to. I thought we were referring to like
Animism.
yes.
No,
yes,
when we talk
folklore.
about myth is not archetype is a synonym. It's close. A myth is more like a spirit, more like a psychological thing that is tied to metaphysical objects. Yes, tied to metaphysical things that are not seen, yes, but they are believed. Yes.
My female comrade, can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, my sorry.
Thank you for your explanation, but I think it is important for us to have a common ground. From my own personal perspective, it's just a suggestion. I feel this myth here is too heavy. Yeah, this myth is too heavy because once a scholar hears myth, what we expect is something folkloric, something that has to do with animism, or something that.
So that's why we came actually. We came for the myth.
Exactly. But I
was expecting.
She convinced me.
Yeah, that is folklore. Let's go. Folklore and boy child.
Animism,
something very different.
I thought we were talking about masquerade, folklore, dance, all those are elements of
That's the archetype.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just trying to, I want us to address, let me just say, a linguistic issue Instead of using myth, can we just use stereotype, something that is precise, that goes straight to your discourse, rather than pick a word that is an umbrella term.
No, I don't think it's really stereotyping that she was looking. She didn't start from
Archetype.
more like archetype.
Archetype.
Instead of stereotyping.
Yeah, that archetype. Absenteeism father, you can explain it as an archetype.
Archetype.
Because a lot of people study father figures, and then when they start to analyze father figures in different literary texts, you have absenteeism fathers as a type of father figure. And so I think you can still put that absenteeism father under, I think it can. Archetypal criticism can swallow it.
But I personally prefer that archetype. It's more.
If I understand your myth, I'm trying to understand your myth now. There is a belief, right? You are looking at the belief of the people. There's a belief of the people that if you are born on a Friday, you are a taboo. You should be killed. You shouldn't be allowed to live.
Oh, so
and
that's where
that's where our myth is coming from.
Okay.
It's a belief that if you are born on a Friday, you are a taboo.
Father,
You are a taboo. And so
And that was how the father now rejected him,
But at the same time, at the end of the story, the writer is trying to project that all of these things don't necessarily have to come to fore. They don't have to come to bear. Because if this guy was not supposed to have been born, and at the end of the day, when his father dies, is the same one they came for. So when I stand in gap and represent the family, it of course rubbishes their belief. So I think it should be strong on that point as well.
Okay.
I think the conflict is resolved.
Yes.
I think that's the angle from which it's coming.
I think it's
That's the angle.
I also think that makes me
it's actually heavy. It's still heavy.
Because even archetype comes beneath it.
Yes.
See, like the psychology, the mentality is still below the psychology, the myth. So myth is like, to me, I think it's quite a careless usage, or not something that you can really cram
or something
to what you mean, the concept. All right. So thank you for that. I know it's quite. Yeah, I think she has explained otherness. Yes.
I didn't get that.
All right. So just in one sentence, what is otherness in your work?
Otherness is the categorization of individuals into groups, particularly two groups. Could be many groups, but in this case, two groups. Those that are normal and those that are different.
So the different are the others.
Yes, the different are the others.
All right, thanks so much. So I think we just quickly conclude, but let me address some of your questions and observations. Thank you so much for your compliments, everybody. Thank you. And in fact, I was wowed by your compliment that I speak so well. Where it is obvious that I stammer, yet you said I speak so well. Well, thank you for that. Actually,
I noticed you stammered.
I stammer big time. All right, so
the trick of
the trick he's able to break his sentences and then flow with it.
So you raised quite a number of issues. I'll try to address the ones that I can. And so, something about militancy. To be honest, we have quite a number of works on militancy. And in fact, my first degree and second degree is another area. So there is no need to overflow it. But I've not really investigated in the trauma aspects. Because of course, this thing will leave trauma in their experience.
Of course.
And it's something we should investigate. I've not really talked about that, but I would start to find the research interest.
That's another paper anyway. So all the ideas you brought are several papers.
Just want to say that
There are several papers.
you were adding about 6 more.
Exactly. They are not something they can reflect in this one paper. There are too many.
If you notice, when I got that bid that I had before. I paused. I paused and I said, I'm not sure I'll be able to finish. Yeah, because I understand that I was trying to have quite a lot of things. I'll take notes of your competition. Thank you so much. Then, yeah, sweet crude. What they say? Yeah, they said, in fact, it's something to look into because why that I and I wrote something in the conclusion, but of course, something I can put on the closer look, like looking at it deep, like why something crude in that context should be crude negative now, like something good, and again it can also mean crude oil.
Yes.
So it's like something that I can look into.
Sweet crude, like a paradox.
Yeah, exactly.
Paradox.
Exactly.
Crude, the appearance of crude is not sweet. Doesn't look appealing.
And again,
And so
yes. And again, it is not something that should bring sweetness, like
Yes.
healing from oil.
Of course.
Should make everything sweet. But we see,
It's the reverse for the people of the community.
yes,
Resource cost.
So, yes,
I noted that down, resource cost.
then
you also look for because I didn't hear who you said propounded the concept. I went to look for it, Richard Auntie or something, 1993. I said, no, I would look into it because it really explains a lot.
Okay, so in fact, I want to appreciate you especially for being attentive because you explain that I need some names. Okay, and it is true. Because even while I was preparing my paper, I was not trying to write citation.
Where did you get it from?
So that was one thing you noted that I cannot be claiming that oil was discovered this way that I get that from. And I actually wrote citation there when I was reviewing, but I did not have time class on it. But thanks so much for that observation. Then you talk about post-colonial eco-criticism. Yes, in fact, we have that more than a decade now.
As a theory.
Yeah.
As one theory. It's not post-colonial eco-criticism. No, it's not. It is theory. Post-colonial eco-criticism.
Classmate at PhD level that graduated this year, that's what he used. Post-colonial
Eco-criticism.
I got that from easily. I was now pondering on it. What is man talking about?
This paper now, in the next 10 years now,
Of course, now you see other
one lecture there and you say, I was there when this Ross, you see that you not acknowledge that we helped him to refine this.
Yes, then you asked me to clarify criminal capitalism and global capitalism. Yes, it's intentional. So, and it is to address your question to side because you said something around okay, like the educated findings themselves in that. So we see that yes, the topic is on global capitalism, and just as I've explained in the during the key time when I explained that it's like it is when we have some forces that just want to maximize profits and
At the detriment of the whatever.
at all costs. But when I was trying to explain the criminal capitalism, it is when I checked the journey of the protagonist, it was a criminal one. And so you know that capitalism is not always a criminal case. It is business. But in this aspect, like it's just a something under the global capitalism.
So it's a finding.
Yes. We see that it was the failed system in the country. That is to be related to yours that even the educated, because in former books that I've read, we see how the educated ones are the one they are the activists.
Of course.
They are the one fighting
For the cause
the freedom. But in this case now, we see how someone educated now get himself slowly into that path of criminal capitalism. It is the systemic deprivation and the lack of opportunity. So that also answers your question to that. Sometimes it is the system that push these educated people into some morally compromising situations. So I think I'm able to. Yes, thank you for saying that. That 4 things are actually what
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I will adjust. Thank you so much for the explanation. Do you have anything else? So, I think probably group with the Thank you so much for actually
Let's check my lecturer.
Yes. Thank you so much, Apple.
Yes, my pleasure, sir.
Akbo.
My
Yes,
pleasure.
Akbo, did you come from the Niger Delta? Akbo. Maybe
It's in the
Yes,
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
yes,
When I had
I'm,
Akbo,
I'm,
just from that. I
yes,
come
I'm a
from the Niger Delta
Presbyterian,
too.
but
I come from the Niger Delta too.
hello?
Uh,
Yes, that's good.
Nigeria.
I'm okay. Okay, we don't know the lady's name.
Extended Niger Delta. It doesn't mean the Niger Delta. We know it.
Nigeria Delta in Ondo.
Extension.
What is the extended English?
If